Hi, good morning everybody, and thank you for joining us on Jaspersoft Tech Talk number 5, Meet the Jaspersoft Studio Developers. Today's January 14th. Actually, it's the 15th. The date is wrong there, so don't freak out that it's one day in the future or in the past. Okay, so yeah, I'm Ernesto Ungaro. I'll be the host today. I want to basically start today's broadcast with a poll question. We'll leave that for a few minutes from now, but we'll talk a little bit about the format of the show if you've never joined before. So we actually have 4 different presenters today joining us from all parts of the world, talking about Jaspersoft Studio. During their presentation, you can ask questions. I see there's already a few questions that have come in. The questions can be about Jaspersoft Studio, they can be about iReport, they can be about Jaspersoft Server, anything that you have in mind working with Jaspersoft, we can answer live for you. So it's a pretty good opportunity for customers and prospects and community members alike to just ask your questions here, and we'll do our best to answer them. With that, I introduce Giulio Toffoli. He's the architect of Jaspersoft Studio. Welcome, Giulio.
Thank you, Ernesto. Good morning to everyone, or good afternoon, depending from where you are connected from. Thank you, Ernesto, for inviting me and my team for this presentation. It's a great opportunity for us to present Jaspersoft Studio, which essentially is something that is very similar to iReport, but it has been designed with in mind a lot of extensions, something that in the future will become something much, much more powerful than iReport. So I want to introduce you to how Jaspersoft Studio looks like. So I assume many of you already use Jaspersoft Studio, so it's good to introduce the application from the scratch. Does it sound good, Ernesto? All right, I assume the silence is a yes. So here is Jaspersoft Studio. Jaspersoft Studio is a total rewriting of iReport. And this particular application is built on top of a very popular Java IDE called Eclipse. Now, if you are not a Java developer, probably you don't even know what Eclipse is, but if you actually are a Java developer, you will probably know Eclipse, since it's probably the most used Eclipse IDE. Now, Eclipse can be used also to build applications on top of it. Very, very stable application. So this was our choice when we decided to rewrite iReport with in mind a concept of something that is much more than a report designer. It's a studio, meaning a set of tools that work with all the Jaspersoft technologies. Now, from who approached Jaspersoft Studio for the first time, if you are used to iReport, you may be a little bit in trouble in figuring out how to do things that you were used to do in iReport before. One of the aim of this presentation today is actually help you to find what you were doing in iReport and how you can do this today in Jaspersoft Studio. So during today, there will be Slavic, which is our senior developer for Jaspersoft Studio. He works from Brussels. He will show us a little bit about connections. So what in Jaspersoft Studio we call data adapters. Massimo, which is working with in our office here in Italy, will show some cool stuff related to how to create a report by using an XML data source and how to use an XML in a way that is normally called REST. So when you need to create a report against an external XML, a remote XML. And he will also introduce something that we are very proud of in Jaspersoft Studio, which is the new expression editor, a way that simplifies the life of designers when they are required to write expressions. Then also Slavic will show the state of the current integration with JasperReports Server. I will show something new in all the Jaspersoft ecosystem, which is the HTML5 charts and how they are built in, how you can build a report with an HTML5 in Jaspersoft Studio. And then Marco, which is our junior developer, but a great promise, will show us two new, very interesting new features. One is tools to understand how styles are applied to elements, and the help system. The help system in particular is something that should help a lot people to learn how to use Jaspersoft Studio by using it, meaning by providing contextual help which explains the meaning of all the buttons, in general the procedures to do basic things, which most of the time represent a big problem if you don't know a little bit how JasperReports works. So at this point, well, we will see what all these views. This is the main designer, like we will see during the presentation. This is the repository explorer. Now, Slavic will probably start from here. So I'm going immediately to let Slavic talk about data adapters, and I'm going to make him the presenter. So here it is, and Slavic, now it's your time.
Hi everybody, good morning. I'll talk about data adapters. Data adapters provide the necessary information to access data and logic needed for JasperReports engine to connect to this data. Data adapters are stored in XML files. So to create a data adapter, we'll create it inside our project. We'll go to File, New, Data Adapter. Wizard will pop up. So we have to say our data adapter file name, my data adapter. We know he will be stored inside our project iReports. We go to next page and we see a list of data adapter types. So Jaspersoft Studio support all data sources we have in JasperReports, so we create data adapters for them. We have data adapter for CSV files, for collections, for GR data sources, for JDBC connections, AGBQL, for Hibernate session or Hibernate session loaded by Spring, Hive connection, JNDI, JSON, Excel files, Mondrian connections, MongoDB, XML local or remote files, and XML server files. Let's look at the next page. It's actually the page where we create our data adapter. For each type of data adapter, we have a customized page. So each data adapter provides an UI to configure this data adapter. So for example, for JDBC connection, we say the driver name, URL, user and name. Actually, for all data adapters, we usually have a parameter that tell to the data adapter where to get data, and we have a lot of parameters that configure the data access. For example, for CSV file, we'll have browse button that will help us to select a file, and we'll have a lot of parameters to tell to JasperReport how to use this data, like column names, separators, date pattern, number pattern, and so on. I will create a simple empty row data adapter with exactly one row. We have a test button. We'll see how we can use it with the JDBC data adapter. We press finish, and we have this data adapter created inside our report. It's a file-based data adapter. Inside the Jaspersoft Studio, we also store a list of data adapters in Eclipse preferences. In this way, these data adapters will be visible in all our projects. To create them, we have the same steps. So we see the list, we select our type, we press next, we configure the data adapter, and we press finish. Double clicking on data adapter, we can open it and edit. Here I have a data adapter that connects to HSQL database, so I can test it. Connection was successful, and I can use it in a report. For example, in Cherry report, I can go to dataset and query dialog and see all my data adapters here in this combo box. I will select sample DB data adapter. I'll go to data preview and see the data from sample DB database. Or I can select the data adapter in preview mode of JasperReport editor when I actually run the report against this database. Sorry. So this is my report that use sample DB database, and I can change to one empty record. He will rerun the report and will show data from one empty record data adapter. We can export, we can edit data adapter, duplicate data adapter, delete it from these Eclipse preferences, or export to a file, import to workspace.
Slavic, I'm going to stop you for just a second just to interject something. So a lot of the audience are probably iReport users, probably not used to the idea of a data adapter, and it is different than the way that you configured a data connection in iReport, in that the data adapter itself is going to be referenced within the JRXML. So I don't know if you want to switch to the design mode and then show the property which associates the
No, actually we can from JasperReports 4.7 we can reference a data adapter inside JRXML file, but it's not mandatory. Actually, the data adapter is not inside the XML file, it's outside. So here in preview mode, we just select the data adapter we want to use with this JRXML file. So it's not inside.
Okay. So it's optional. So it's optional, yeah, whether it's referenced.
It's exactly like we have in iReport on the global toolbar. We have a combo box from which we can select the connection. But here in Jaspersoft Studio, it's not on the global toolbar, it's inside this toolbar, inside preview editor.
Okay. And you're saying that the JRXML does not reference the data adapter?
No.
Okay, but that it can.
We can.
Yeah, Ernesto, let's elaborate a little bit on this. So, in iReport, you configure a connection or a data source, and you make it the active connection or data source in order to run your report and actually perform other tasks like get the fields from a query, for instance. In Jaspersoft Studio, we push down the configuration portion of a data source and connection, and we inherited by JasperReports this concept of data adapter. When we talk about data adapters, we are talking to something very, very similar to the concept of connection we had in iReport before. The good thing of using data adapters is that this technology is strictly connected to JasperReports, and this allows us, for instance, to use a special property inside the XML to set a default data adapter that, if available, may be used by JasperReports to run the report. We use this property, for instance, to store the data adapter that should be used by default with a specific report. This allows us to work at the same time on several reports, and Jaspersoft Studio automatically knows which is the data adapter or connection, if you prefer to call it like that, but we really like the name data adapter, automatically without having to switch what in iReport was the active connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I will show you how a data adapter actually looks like. So as I told you, data adapter is a file. We'll open a file, for example, Apple stock data adapter. I will show you how we implemented this data adapter inside Jaspersoft Studio. We'll open it with a text editor. So it's actually an XML file that describes access to data. And I said at the beginning that data adapter also contains a logic to connect data and adapt this data to JasperReport engine. This means we need some classes, Java classes, that will do that. So to implement a data adapter, we have some interfaces like data adapter. These interfaces are from JasperReports. So it's in NetSuite JasperReports data package. We need to implement some interfaces like data adapter and data adapter service. Data adapter is actually a class that describes all the parameters data adapter has, and this class is mapped to an XML file. This is mapping. We use Castor to map these files. But I want to show this data adapter service class that actually contains all the logic to connect data and adapt this data to JasperReport engine. So let's look inside this class. We have a contribute parameters method. Inside this contribute parameters method, we have to create the connection and put this connection in a map, in parameters map that will be passed to JasperReport engine before execution of the report. This stock data adapter servers will connect to Yahoo and get some data from CSV files, some stock data. So what we do here, we create an URL, a connection to Yahoo Finance. We get the data. We do some data formatting with simple data format, and we put this collection data source inside the map, inside the JasperReport parameters map. So this data adapter is created in our source folder inside the my reports project. And because in Jaspersoft Studio we have dynamic class loading and we have class loaders per project, we can actually use it inside our project. So I will run Apple stock report that actually show us two fields from Apple stock. So this is the report, and we'll use this Apple stock data adapter.
By the way, for the audience, this is not a paid advertising by Apple Software Corporation. He's using an Apple and he's showing the stock price, but we are not sponsored by Apple for this. Or at least I'm not. If you're sponsored by Apple.
Okay, just to summarize what Slavic is showing here, is the way that users may use to plug in custom data adapters. So inside Jaspersoft Studio, there are data adapters for pretty much all the sources provided by JasperReports. You can also use Jaspersoft Studio to use your own custom data adapters, and that's what the code was about. Well, I think we have a lot of things to do. So if you are able to solve the problem, maybe you can show this stock report later, Slavic. In the meantime, I will ask Massimo to
one moment, Giulio, just one. I'd like to say for developers that if they want to see how to implement data adapters and data adapter UI for the new wizard, they can look in project com Jaspersoft Studio data or com Jaspersoft Studio data hive for an example. And here they can see an example, a full example of data adapter implementation and the UI to configure a data adapter.
Perfect. And we will give the references of all the source code at the end of the webinar. So if you
I can post those on the page. Also, Giulio, before we switch over, we're going to do the poll question now. So we're going to put up just a poll question asking you which way you use to develop your Jaspersoft report. So whether you use iReport, whether you're already trying Jaspersoft Studio, ad hoc reporting, or you're editing XML by hand or other, just let us know and then we'll share the results with you. So we'll give everybody about 30 seconds or so to vote, and then we'll put up the results, and then we'll go back to you, Giulio, in Italy. Okay, just a couple more seconds for all the votes to come in, and that's great. So we are closing the poll, and I think we'll share the results now. I don't think I'll be too surprised by the results. Let's see. So a whopping 94% of the audience today is using iReport. So this is actually good. I think it's who Giulio wanted to reach is the iReport users.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Great. So back to you, Giulio.
Okay. Now Massimo will show us a couple of other stuff.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. I'm Massimo Rabbi, and I'm part of the Jaspersoft Studio team. I work here from Italy with Giulio and Marco. And what I will show you right now will be the quick creation of a sample report that we use an XML data adapter, a local one. Slavic has already shown you a lot of stuff regarding data adapters. So we will assume that we already created this local data adapter. And as you can see, here we have the XML file located in my workspace. I've selected this option because we want to be able to enter the query later in the dedicated editor. And this is more of it. So let's proceed with the sample report creation. Let's switch to the Project Explorer view. Let's create a new report. JasperReports. Okay. Let's choose, for example, olive green template. Let's create it, local XML sample. And as you can see in here, similar to what we have to do in a report, you need to choose where to acquire data. In a report, you have the iReport connection, as Giulio told us. And here in Jaspersoft Studio, you have to simply choose the data adapter. So in this case, let's choose the XML one. Okay. So now, as you can see, after we choose the data adapter, the dedicated editor is shown. So already from here, you can enter the XPath query you want. In a report, if I remember well, the only query editor that is shown during the report creation steps is the SQL one. So this is a new improvement we made in Jaspersoft Studio. In JSS, in fact, if with data adapter support it, there is an area where the dedicated editor is shown, and this is this one. Let's proceed entering the query. We can enter it manually in here, or we can simply select the node we are interested in. So for example, we want to create a report that shows a list of customers, so we select the customer node. Okay. After clicking next, the wizard will try to extract a list of the available fields and propose them to us. So for the purpose of this report, I will select customer ID, company name, contact name, city, country. Next. I will not create any grouping information. Okay. And this is our report. As you saw, very quick and straightforward procedure. Moreover, as I already told you, you can design your XPath query already during the report creation. But if you want to modify it, you need simply to open the dataset and query dialog. Here it is. And this window may probably recall you of the existing report query dialog that you would use in a report. Here you can configure a lot of information, like for example the fields, parameters, sorting information, filter expression, or even data preview if you want to see, or you want to have a basic idea what information will be returned. Let's, for example, try for 1 second to set a filter expression. Suppose we want to only display the customer from Germany. Okay. Let's close the dialog. Okay. Let's open again the expression editor. I want to stop for a few minutes and focus on it. And I wanted to introduce it because I want to show you what we do in Jaspersoft Studio that is not present in iReport. As you can see, we have a new node that is called a built-in function that shows a set of functions that are listed then in categories. We have predefined a set of built-in one, date and time function, logical, text, numerical, and so on. What we wanted to provide was a quick and easy way for users to avoid writing code. A simple example, why a business user would want to enter this Java expression to simply enter the today date. He could, for example, use today that returns the current date as object. Or let's suppose we want to do some more sophisticated example. So let's try to date format. this, we can switch and enter any field, expression. Here it is. So what we expect now is to have the current date formatted in this way. So let's try to finish, save it, and run our report. And let's give a look at the result. Okay, as you can see, we have only the German customers. Here in the bottom of the page, we have the date formatted as we specified. This function library uses under the scene a JasperReports extension that could be a mechanism some of you already know. And the nice thing about it is that you can create your custom library. Suppose you want to create a special decode function that takes as input a product ID, or why not a custom method that performs some advanced math calculation. You can create your own set of functions and then them in the expression editor. Once your company developers will have created the code for doing this, you will simply need to add the jar to your project classpath, and after that, the new function will be available in the expression editor. For this demo, I have packaged this jar that contains two simple functions. Let's try to add it to the build path of our iReport project. Let's add the jar. Okay. So right now, let's close this one. Let's now open this sample report that uses an XML data adapter, a remote one. Let's give a quick look to it. As you can see, it's a remote one. They use this Twitter URL that allows me to retrieve the last 2,000 tweets from the Jaspersoft account. Okay. Here I've prepared a special method. As you can see in here, we have a new node that before was not available, and this is all done via inclusion of the jar. So as you can see, I have this two simple function, but in this case, I wanted to format the string that Twitter returns to me, that is the timestamp of the tweet, and I can simply enter these two information and to produce this final report. Connecting to Twitter, a moment. Okay. This is the final result. Let me zoom in. Okay. These are the latest 200 tweets. And this is the date, the timestamp, properly formatted, as we specified. I think for me it's all. Probably I will switch back to Giulio that may introduce you the HTML5 charting, probably.
Yeah, thank you very much, Massimo. These are really great features. So as you can see, I want to highlight a couple of changes in Jaspersoft Studio. We introduced in Jaspersoft Studio. So you see the preview button is here, like Slavic was showing. We no longer have this combo box with the connection. The combo box with data adapters, like we call them in Jaspersoft Studio, are inside the viewer itself. The way we set the formats to which we want to produce a report is always in the same context as the viewer. You have seen that data adapters are defined in a special view, which we call repository. We have seen how to create a new connection by using data adapters or even create XML files. And we have seen a lot of new tools we never had before in Jaspersoft in iReport, like the ability in the report wizard to specify much more than just a query. We can play with our XML file, like Massimo showed. And also, a very important difference is maybe some iReport users are used to the cylinder, which opens up the query dialog, well, this query dialog is now, or it can be opened through this icon in the toolbar available when you are designing a report. Now, this dialog, it's actually similar to what we had before in a report from a UI point of view, but it's actually much more powerful. You see, you can create parameters right from there. You can analyze your fields. You can data preview your data almost live, meaning you can immediately see what will be the data that will be used to create your report. And this is valid not just for SQL. It's valid for all the languages you are using and the parameters you are using here. And you see that if you need to switch connection, you no longer have to close this dialog, change the active connection, and come back, but you can also work directly from the context where the connection or data adapter makes sense. Okay, so in very few minutes, I would like to show you a new important feature. It's not really a feature, it's much more. It's a new technology that has been included in the Jaspersoft ecosystem. And these are the HTML charts. Now, the HTML chart is probably something that you have seen in JasperReports Server demo, because they are highly used, strongly used inside the new version of JasperReports Server, especially inside Adoc. It's a set of charts that are very, very powerful. Now, we have several charting libraries. We support several charting libraries in JasperReports, in JasperReports Server also. And this means also in iReport and Jaspersoft Studio. So the free charts, the ones that probably every one of us knows, are what we call the JFree charts, a charting library which is free. And it's built inside JasperReports and the Community Edition. The Pro Edition of JasperReports provides two different libraries. The one is what we were used to call the Fusion, or better, the Flash charts, the Charts Pro. But now we have these HTML5 charts, which are not just nicer, like the Chart Pro were with respect to JFree chart, but they are also much more interactive. Now, I have this report. I can run this report. I don't have to specify which data source to use because it already knows he has to use our sample database. And this is how these charts looks like inside a regular report. But what happens if we export these charts in an HTML5 report? Well, they become interactive. So you can click on them, you can configure drill down, you can allow some series to appear, disappear, and in some way you can almost arrive to do a very simple analysis.
Oh, that's very cool that you're able to do that in the web browser, Giulio. Or is there a little web browser in iReport Studio? Or Jaspersoft Studio? Oh, nice.
Yeah, this is actually another new cool feature of Jaspersoft Studio. Where possible, not for every format, but where possible, we try to keep the preview inside the application instead of running external browsers. You can also still copy this URL and open your file somewhere else. But it's very convenient to have the preview inside the application. Moreover, if you have input parameters, you have them here. So no longer 10 pop-ups to insert one parameter at a time. And moreover, from this column here, you can actually provide some specific options for your report execution, which will apply only to this execution. While in a report, you were forced to use global settings for this kind of properties. You can do that also in Jaspersoft Studio, but it's extremely convenient sometimes to just specify what you really need for a couple of tries. One of them, it could be, for instance, the report locale. You want to have a couple of languages, and you can switch between them very easily. These also are things that are have been introduced in JasperReports not much time ago. So the ability to dynamically specify sorting by using a particular main dataset object, like a field, like a variable, and so on. You can also, from this dialog, specify options for the specific file format you are using. We may want to, I don't know, well, simply change what are the options for the export, in this case, in HTML format. If I will switch to PDF, let's say, I will use different set of options here. And in this case, the external viewer will open. So very quickly, I don't want to flood you with a lot of information. I just want to show you a couple of dialogues required to configure an high chart. I want to do this because they are a little bit different from Fusion charts and JFree charts. This section is divided in two portions. The chart properties are all the properties that can be set for the look and feel of the chart, but these represent just a portion of all the options that can actually be configured to drive the look and feel of the chart. You can switch to an advanced properties, and if you know exactly by reading the documentation, of course, how to really configure little details in your chart, you can do this using this dialog. And moreover, each single option of the look and feel of your chart can be driven, can be expressed using dynamic expression. So if you want to show the legend based on some parameter or some user input, you can do that. The chart data. So these kind of charts are really based on the ad hoc tool, and they have in mind what you get in a typical crosstab. So you have dimensions, let's say. This is the configuration of a simple pie chart where you define how the slices here are defined. In this case, are defined by where orders are placed. In particular, each slice is the city. And here is a calculated value. So you have full control over the way the value represented in the chart is calculated. Now, you may already have this value. In this case, you don't have to do any calculation. But if you actually want JasperReports to do calculation for you, you can actually explain how this calculation should be performed. So I may want to see the orders by city, or I may even want to see, I don't know, the sum of the total amount of money spent in orders, or how was the average order, and so on. And
hi, Giulio, can I stop you just for a sec?
Sure.
So traditionally, if I was building, let's say, with JFree charts, and I wanted to get a count by region, I would have to create a separate variable. And what you're saying is that in HTML5 component, you can do that all in one pass. So I don't have to create a separate variable. It's going to do it for me. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Okay, that's very nice. Thank you.
Now, in this particular case, the pie chart is simple. It's the case where with JFree chart, you know, by using a variable, you obtain pretty much the same thing. But if you move to more complex charts, be able to define your measures, this is how we call them, is extremely useful because and convenient. Well, I will not go in details why that's convenient because I should have to explain specific cases that makes it evident. But what I want to highlight is the fact that you in some way have to define a variable for what you want to show inside your chart in terms of value. And then we have levels. I will not go too much in details, but these are things that can be used in the future. So by having levels, I'm defining several levels of a virtual access. So I may want to show these information at maximum detail, which may be city, or I may want to show less information in my chart. In this case, I may want to switch to the region level instead of the city. And not now, but in the future, this will be possible also inside Jaspersoft Studio. For now, JasperReports does not support this feature, which is used by Haddock, but we are already keeping this information because soon this information could be actually leveraged by JasperReports also. So HTML5 only available in professional version. Jaspersoft Studio Professional will be available in a couple of months probably. For now, this stuff is also supported in iReport, but the future again is Jaspersoft Studio. Jaspersoft Studio can today replace iReport. Well, I will give you some more information about that, about the necessity to switch to Jaspersoft Studio if you are using iReport today. But first, I will switch to Marco for a second. So it will show styles and help system, and then Slavic we will show the JasperReports server. So we can squeeze a little bit. So. Good morning.
All right, thanks a lot, Giulio.
Yeah. Yeah, Marco is now speaking.
I'm Marco Orlandi, and I'm here today to present two new features of Jaspersoft Studio. The first feature aims at making the use of the style easier. In fact, an element has many graphical attributes that can be defined directly, inherited from a style or from a set of default values. But a style is an element too, so it can inherit its attributes from another style. Furthermore, a default style can be also defined, which is implicitly inherited by all the elements. In a complex report, then, when we see an element with a green background, it's hard to say from where that background is taken, from the style, from the element, from a default value. For this reason, we have introduced a new view. This view can show all the inheritance, all the inherited attributes for the element selected. Let's take the report JasperTweets and select the element timestamp. Here we can see that this element has one style, column header, and from the style it inherited these attributes, the font name, the font size, the bold attribute of the text, and the font color. But, for example, the font color is overridden by the font color of the defined on the element. This way is simple to see which attributes are overridden and which not. The striked one are overridden. And with a single click, I can also remove an attribute to permit the one from the style to be applied. Let's see, for example, I now remove the font color from the element. As you can see, the color is now taken from the style and is not striked anymore.
Okay, now is that just for the preview, or is that like a permanent change in the report?
It's a permanent change, but it can be undone.
Oh, that is so helpful. Really, developing complex reports in iReport, this is huge, huge difference. Very nice.
Okay, another feature regards the documentation. A common problem with this kind of software is the documentation. Not only there may be a lack of documentation, but it also often happens to have so much documentation that it gets too hard to consult. In other words, many times the user doesn't know where to search for information. For this reason, we introduce a powerful feature of contextual help. If you select a view, like for example the outline view, and use the help button F1 or the dynamic help option from the help menu, you can get a brief description of the view and link to other resources like in-depth description or tutorials. Now I'm looking at the contextual help of the outline view, but the same way I can look the contextual help of the property view. And this apply also at the wizard. Take, for example, if I want to create a new report, by clicking this button, I can have a contextual help of this step of the wizard, and I can have a contextual help for every step, with reference to tutorial and other resources. So, with this new system, you don't need to search for the information, but the information comes to you when you need it. Another new feature about the help system are the cheat sheets. The cheat sheets are tutorials that can do some steps automatically. Let's, for example, suppose to want to create a new dataset and we don't know how to do it. We can open a cheat sheet. Here the cheat sheet has an introduction which explains what it does. Okay, the first step of this cheat sheet say to open the outline tab. But suppose that the outline tab is closed and we don't know how to open it. The cheat sheet can open it for us and go to the next step. The next step is say to select the root element of the report, select create dataset, but even this can do it for us. The cheat this action open a wizard, and the cheat sheet follow us into the wizard. And it follow us step by step.
That's very, very cool, very helpful.
Step from the cheat sheet can also be copy and paste into the wizard, or type it directly.
So somebody from the audience, one of the questions was, where can I get training on Jaspersoft Studio? So that's not available yet through Jaspersoft University. Once the professional edition is released in a commercial release, we will have official training. So in the meantime, this would be probably the best way to learn how to use Jaspersoft Studio. And for this audience,
some information about where to get it. But something
okay.
I really want to say is that all this stuff, the ones that you have seen today, except for the HTML5 chart, it's all open source, just like iReport, and the source code is also available. Moreover, while iReport was released under the GPL license, which was very restrictive, this Eclipse application is actually released under the EPL license, which is a license very common in the Eclipse world, and it can be essentially reused in other Eclipse-based applications.
Okay, I finished. Bye to everyone, and use Jaspersoft Studio.
Okay, so Ernesto, do we have still time for Slavic to show the JasperReports Server features?
You know, I think it would be critical to show them, if we can, like compress the demo to 2 minutes, because most of the people attending today are commercial customers of Jaspersoft, and they're going to be using the server. So the transition between iReport and the server isn't always very good, and I think in Studio we're actually going a very good direction. So yeah, I think we should just show it quickly.
Okay, Ernesto, I'll try to be quick this time. So we have repository view where we can see all our server connections, like this one. It's a connection to my local server. On double click we see a server connection dialog. We can configure here some server parameters and test the connection. It's successful. We can expand this tree node to see all the content of this server. We see the server repository. I will show how we can see an editor resource and how we can publish a report. So we use always context menus to work with these resources. We have properties action to see the resource properties like parent folder type, creation date. We can change the name or description. This is a report unit, so we can change the default JRXML file, data source, and input controls. If we open this one, for example, for an image, we can go to properties, and we can see actually the image, upload or download this image. To run this report unit, we have an action to run report unit. This report unit will be run on a Jaspersoft server, and we'll show here the results. It takes a bit time.
Yeah, the same abilities we have for local reports to use the parameters column also apply to this, this system.
Here we'll see a list of input controls. The preview is similar to what we have for local reports. We can also open this JRXML file in an editor. Communication with the server take a bit time because we are using swap. You can see here we also show all the images. We are able to resolve all the images from the server and get it locally in our report. On the tooltip, you can see exactly the expression we use for this image, so you can debug. To create something new in a context menu, we have this new action, and we have a wizard to create resource types used in a Jaspersoft server. So for each type, we have a specific interface. We have different pages. For example, for new report wizard, we'll have 4 pages where we have to configure this new report, or we can publish a report directly. For example, I will take the master report from JasperReports demo, from JasperReport library samples. I will take the master report that contains 2 sub-reports, and we'll publish this report to the repository. So I open this report. I have this button, publish report to Jaspersoft Server. I will be asked to which one, where I want to publish this report. I will select this reports folder. He will create a new report unit because I don't have one. If I will have already this report published on the server, he will just update it. We introspect this report, and we have found a sub-report, address report, so we can publish it, or if we don't want, we can uncheck it, but in this case we will check. Because a new report unit will be created, so he will ask us for a data source, and we click finish. So our report is published. We'll refresh this folder in report view, and we have our report with a sub-report inside. Why it's only one sub-report? Because here I see we have 2 sub-reports. Depends on how sub-report expression is. In the case of this one, we have a direct file name of the address report, but in this case it comes from a parameter, so we can't see it. So I think these are the main features we can show for this moment.
Okay, I'll point out a couple of things, Slavic. I think
if somebody has questions, you can use our forum on community, jaspersoft.com, and ask questions. We'll answer them.
very good, and I can confirm that because all the guys presenting today are very active on the Jaspersoft community site, so you can basically talk to them directly. Couple of questions about this. So this report that you published to the server, and there was the expression for the sub-report was repo. When you preview it locally, does it try to do anything about getting the reports? I know if you run the report from the server, then of course it'll work with using the repo syntax.
Yeah, I can answer for you, Slavic. So, Ernesto, the problem is that when we reference a sub-report with the repo syntax, we are not actually referencing a Jasper file like JasperReports assumes, but we are referencing a jar XML file, or actually a resource on the server. So on the server, when you ask for a resource in a particular way, it will perform some actions like compile this jar XML into a Jasper file and return the Jasper file. So this is currently not possible in Jaspersoft Studio, but we are working to have something similar, or at least be able to recreate something which resemble the idea of repository locally, and probably as a second step, ways like JasperReports Server to compile a jar XML if it's referenced as sub-report.
Look here, I actually opened this main jar XML file, the master report jar XML, from the server, the one we published. And you can look at the expression. We actually added this repo syntax. And this, we do this also not only for sub-reports, but also for images. If you have a report with some images inside, we are publishing this imaging also. So will rewrite the expression with repo syntax. We actually get images not only from the main report, but from all the sub-reports, and you can have many levels of sub-reports. We will take not only the images, but we'll take all the resources like styles also, or property files defined in the report. So it's a big step forward from iReport.
Yeah, and another improvement is what happened when you modify and save this file. If you can show this, Slavic, also.
Yeah, we can modify this file. And when you save, he will ask you if you want to publish this to JasperReports Server.
So in iReport, we had before the replace with the current XML menu item, which was highly error-prone. This will never happen again, that you will save our XML overwriting the wrong report unit XML. When you save this, Jaspersoft Studio knows which was the report unit from which you opened this XML and will replace the correct one.
That is great. I have to admit that I've done that many times myself. Yeah. Overwritten the wrong JXML with the right click replace. So yeah, that's great. Just hitting save.
Another small feature we have here, copy paste is working. We can get a resource with copy from one report unit and paste it to another, or we can get even a report unit with all elements inside.
While before, this operation was working only in copying resources from folders, but not from inside a report unit. Well, as you can see, all small changes which in the everyday usage of an application may make the difference. Now I want to, can you, Slavic, make me the presenter so I can give you guys some references or where you can find this stuff?
While he's doing that, by the way, we're still going to answer we're going to try to get it to as many questions as we can.
Oh, sure.
So don't drop off just yet, guys, because we've got loads of questions.
Absolutely, and I think we are. So yeah, in this slide, I want to point to the community site, which is community.jaspersoft.com. And if you then use project Jaspersoft Studio, you will get to the home page of the Jaspersoft Studio project. Here you can find many resources. You can not just download the community edition of Jaspersoft Studio, but you can also find an entire page full of tutorials and references to guides that may help you to get started with Jaspersoft Studio. A couple of other information. If you plan to just test Jaspersoft Studio, let's say you feel you are not ready to make the switch, but you want to place a test the new application, be aware that behind Jaspersoft Studio we have JasperReports. And JasperReports is the portion of the application that writes and reads the jar XML. So there is no way to screw up your report just by using Jaspersoft Studio. Well, assuming you are using the last version of JasperReports or the last version of iReport. Again, what I'm trying to say is that if you download today iReport 5.01, or if you download the last version of Jaspersoft Studio, you can switch from a designer to the other without having any problem in terms of compatibility. Now, tomorrow, we are going to release the new version of Jaspersoft Studio, the one which will include the latest version of JasperReports, which is the 5.01. It has been released a couple of weeks ago. It will be the 1.3.3, and it will be one of the last versions of type 1.x, because very soon we plan to do the jump, let's say, and move to the 2x set of releases. But we consider the application pretty stable, and anyway, more people will start using it. More quickly, the application will become more and more stable. And it's something for us which is critical right now. Finally, I want to remember that Jaspersoft Studio is available in 2 flavors. The one more similar to iReport is the standalone version, which can be downloaded from the Jaspersoft Studio site I'm pointing to. The other way to install Jaspersoft Studio, if you are an Eclipse developer or you want to use just Eclipse as IDE, you can install Jaspersoft Studio as plugin for Eclipse. And in this case, well, you can still follow instructions on this website or use the marketplace, if you know what it is, of the Eclipse, to install Jaspersoft Studio as plugin of your Java IDE Eclipse, of course. So we are ready to answer questions if you want. Ernesto?
Okay, great. So I want to fly through a lot of these, but just know that the same page that you registered from, I'm also going to type out the answers to these because they're great questions. The first question is a tough one. It's, are there plans to improve iReport? Now, I can answer that very quickly, which is we're going to support iReport, but we're not going to add new features to it. Would you agree with that, Giulio, or do you have anything to add to that?
So, yes, that's correct. But I will also add information to this answer. JasperReports is a very mature reporting library. And today, the direction where Jaspersoft is moving is in the direction of interactivity. And interactivity means HTML. So more and more features will be added to JasperReports in the concept of HTML improvement in terms of exporter, in terms of capabilities, both community edition and professional stuff. Jaspersoft Studio is the perfect environment to support this new stuff, which may require separate editors, new features, new editors itself that will be part of Jaspersoft Studio, but which may be not strictly related to a report designer like iReport. So what I was saying at the beginning, Jaspersoft Studio aims to put together, unify several tools that you may need in order to have or to implement successfully a BI environment.
Thanks for that. That makes a lot of sense. And I'll just add in that if you are concerned, hey, I've invested the time to learn iReport, why should I go back and learn something new? I've personally switched from iReport to Studio, not 100% yet because it is still in development, but it wasn't a very hard switch. So so don't be scared. We're not going to leave you hanging there. Okay, next.
I agree with yeah, and if I can add just a word about that. When you learn iReport, you probably don't notice that, but what you are really doing, you are learning JasperReports and how JasperReports works. All the other stuff is just UI. I mean, the big difference you may find in Jaspersoft Studio is where is the button that I was used to find in a particular position. But the way you create a variable, the reason because you need to create a data set, it's still the same stuff, still the same thing you learn with iReport and you will reuse in Jaspersoft Studio.
Thanks for that. Okay, the next question, when will HTML5 documentation for iReport be available? So I can announce that the iReport Ultimate Guide for version 5 is coming out I think it's due in January, so it's got to be any moment. So look for it in the support portal or in the eShop very, very soon. The next one is,
yeah, well, consider that what will be documented is this JasperReports plugin to use HTML5. But then HTML5 already have their own very, very extensive and detailed documentation about each single configuration option.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of have to use both to build your complex reports. HTML5 multi-axis, when will that be available? It is coming. We can't tell you exactly when that'll be. So first of all, JasperReports have to support it, and then they'll support it in iReport and Jaspersoft Studio.
Right.
Next question is...
And it's probably on top of our request for HTML5 charts improvement.
Great. Yeah, I have seen it various places. Let's see. Next one was, is the data adapter the new data source connection that we use in iReport? No, iReport will continue to function the same way. Data adapters probably will never be supported in iReport.
Correct.
Is that
correct? Currently, iReport already supports all the data sources put at disposal by JasperReports. So there is no need for data adapters support in iReport. Of course, if you create your custom data adapter, what happens? Well, you are not able to test it in iReport. But since I don't think many people will create data adapters. And if they do, they know also how to use them in iReport. It's not impossible. It's just about writing a couple of classes. For sure, not something a report designer will do by itself.
great? The next one here is, it's actually come from 3 different people. Can Jaspersoft Studio integrate with a source control system like Git or SVN or CVS?
Oh yeah, this is a long time request for a report. First of all, Jaspersoft Studio inherits a lot of things from the platform on top of which is built, which is Eclipse. So one of the things it inherits is the workspace and the project. So we introduced in Jaspersoft Studio this new concept of project, for which you may have specific options and class paths. And also, you can add new plugins to Jaspersoft Studio, included support for external versioning, like Subversion. So yes, the answer is yes, and I would say it's yes, not just for the plugin, but probably even for the standalone version.
Yes, for the plugin version is the best way to test it because you can simply install it in your Eclipse, so you may already have support for SVN, CVS, or Git, for example. But also for the standalone, this is not impossible. You can find a tutorial on how to try to build also from scratch your custom Jaspersoft Studio. But if there are many requests, I think we can.
Yeah, there may be some dependencies we should check. Yeah, but in general, I mean, from a technical point of view, this will be for sure possible.
Yeah.
That's very good news. Yeah, they can't really give feedback on the answers, but I think there's probably some cheering and clapping somewhere. The next one I'll give to you, Giulio. How is a dynamic class integrated into JasperReports Server? So I think this was during Massimo's demo where he showed how to add the new date class, the Twitter date parser. So how would they publish that to JasperReports Server?
Well, it's about adding the jar you are using in Jaspersoft Studio in JasperReports Server. Now, from a technical point of view, extending the set of functions you are using in your report, it's just like adding any other JasperReports extension, like a new query executor, if you know what is a query executor is, or a new chart team, you can extend JasperReports library, so any environment powered by JasperReports, by adding your extension which contributes functions in this particular case.
Yes, regarding this, I will probably publish a tutorial. I already wrote it, and it's just a matter to port it from our wiki to the community site. And I will explain step by step how to create and contribute to your own function. So it will be quite easy and clear for the user how to create, for example, the Twitter timestamp method I've shown during the demo. You can already find a tutorial regarding the expression editor, but the next one will be more detailed and will regard the creation of this custom function you want to include in your expression editor.
Thank you, Massimo. The next question's about the compatibility mode. So iReport has a compatibility mode. Many of you may not be aware of it, but you can use, for example, iReport 5 to develop reports on JasperReports 3.7 by changing compatibility mode. Is that still true?
First, thanks for this question. This was a very good question. So the compatibility mode has been always something under discussion. Yes, in iReport you have this compatibility, and the truth is that this compatibility was fully handled by iReport. Now, there have been a couple of versions where iReport were not able to assure compatibility. I can remember the case where we decided to remove the class for expressions, so the default class was always Java language string, and this was the source of a lot of problems for many people. So we convinced the JasperReports team to push down the compatibility management to JasperReports library directly. So what today both the Jaspersoft Studio and iReport do is to just define the version they want to be compatible with. And this is the way compatibility works in JasperSoft Studio today. So the short answer, yes, you still have compatibility in JasperSoft Studio, and you may also specify a compatibility when you configure a JasperReports server, so the compatibility can be set not just at global level, but also server by server, depending by the server version. But also, it's handled by JasperReports, so it's even better than the one that was initially implemented in iReport.
I'd like to add that you can set the compatibility level by file. It's not only on Jaspersoft Studio level or project level, but we can set compatibility file by file.
Okay, that's excellent. Yeah, so one of the other questions was, is Jaspersoft Studio compatible with JasperReports Server 4.7? So yes, absolutely. Any version 4.7 and above. Okay. Next one was, is Jaspersoft Studio Professional available as part of JasperReports Server Pro or a separate license? So the licensing model of Jaspersoft is a software subscription. So that's one of the advantages of that, is that you don't buy any particular version. You buy a annual subscription that you get to use our software per the license terms as you want. And one of the biggest benefits of that is, as we get new versions, as new products are released, you get to take advantage of them. So Jaspersoft Studio Pro will come with your Pro subscription. Next question is, will iReport eventually be replaced by Jaspersoft Studio? Is that the long-term goal?
Well, we envision that. I mean, for sure at some point there will be not enough reasons to maintain both the tools. But you know, we take very seriously the idea that the switch may not be well accepted by everyone. It's not the first time we rewrite our designer. It happened already 3 years ago when we moved from a generic, the original Java application, which was iReport, to a more sophisticated tool. And the transition has been pretty slow, I would say. It took at least a couple of years for people to move from the old version. So we want to help people to smooth in, to move to Jaspersoft Studio in a smooth way, but we don't. We will be pragmatic also. So I envision that at some point, like we will not support some particular features in iReport because it does not make sense. Write them twice. And in the long term, I will say that Jaspersoft Studio will definitely replace iReport. But again, it's not happening overnight. Still, let's say if you plan to have a class on iReport, take it, because the 90% of what you will learn will be the same in Jaspersoft Studio, at least at high level concept. It's just like if you learn how to write a Java application, the tool you use to write the application, the Java IDE you are using, is not really what makes the difference. What really you need to learn is the language itself.
I agree with that. And again, for those that are going to be hesitant to switch over, I mean, I think already with what we saw today in the hour and a half, in the demos especially, it's like, why wouldn't you want to switch? To me, it just looks like it's the next generation. So, okay, well, guys, I'm very sorry for going over time. I think it was a very good session. We went half an hour over time, but we actually have most participants are still in the webinar, so that's wonderful. So thank you for that. Thank you, Slavic, for joining. Thank you, Massimo, Marco. Thank you, Giulio. You guys were really great today. So a couple things is make sure you sign up for the next upcoming shows. So January 22nd at 10 a.m. Pacific time, so it'll be around 6 p.m. The local time here in Dublin at least. We have embedding Jaspersoft into your PHP application. So we now have a PHP API, or really a wrapper for our REST API that you can learn about on the 22nd. So please join us there. And then on January 29th, we are going to we're going to show you using iReport with a domain. So what can you do? What can't you do? And you'll probably be surprised at actually how much you can do today with iReport and a domain. I may even fire up Jaspersoft Studio as well. Okay, great. So Giulio, I don't know if you have anything else on your end, or if we just go ahead.
Well, I just want to thank you for this great opportunity. I really hope people will enjoy the video for the ones looking at it offline. And a big thank you to everyone that attended live this event.
Great, thanks guys. And don't forget, check out our Jaspersoft Tech Talks YouTube channel. You can check out this recording. You can check out the previous ones as well. And also on jaspersoft.com, you'll find the answers to today's questions if you had to drop off early. So thank you much.